Welcome to our webinar at home with Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi. Today we have the pleasure to welcome senior members of La Sorbonne, the University Vice Chancellor, Silvia Serrano, the Head of Archaeology and History, Caroline Autret, and the Director of the Laboratory of Molecular and Structural Archaeology, Philippe Walter. We are very honored to organize this event with La Sorbonne Abu Dhabi, which is a major actor in the UAE artistic and cultural scenes, not only through their academic contribution, but also to the numerous events they organize. We are also very pleased as we have in the team of the Art Circle, Asma Sadek, who is a friend of La Sorbonne. The subject of today is very wide, but we have with us real experts who will help us to better understand this very interesting topic when science meets arts. To introduce our speakers, we have with us as moderator, Vincent Larnicole, art collector and contributor to the Art Circle. Before starting, I have a few administrative matters. First of all, we have put you all on mute, so please remain muted during the whole presentation. And may I ask you to address your question by writing them on the chat function. Vincent will ask them for us at the end of the presentation. Sylvia, Caroline, Philippe, thank you very much for being with us today. Sylvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Barbara. It's a great honor for us and for Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi to have the opportunity to present our programs, to present our projects, and to explain you what are the kind of interactions that are developing between science and art. I will just have a brief presentation of La Sorbonne, and I just want to tell you that I will not speak more than a few minutes because I'm sure that most of you are already well aware about Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi. How the story of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi began. It's a university that was established in 2008, and the fruit of a collaboration between the Abu Dhabi government and Sorbonne University in Paris, under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. That is the first Sorbonne University outside France. And the idea of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi was to bring the excellence of Sorbonne University to Abu Dhabi. It means that all the programs and all the degrees granted by Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi are the same programs and the same degrees granted in Paris. It means that they are recognized worldwide. And it also means that we have an original model with visiting professors coming from Paris to deliver the same courses they are delivering in Paris in order not to keep the same level in Abu Dhabi and in Paris. So that explains why we have a lot of visiting professors coming to Abu Dhabi and a limited number of professors full-time based in Abu Dhabi. Sorbonne University is a multidisciplinary research university. And at the beginning, the core activities of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi was humanities. And as you may know, it was awarded by Forbes. It received the award of the best university in the Middle East in humanities. But already for some years, there are also programs, they have been programmed in the science, and we are very much developing this direction and benefiting from the excellence of Sorbonne University Paris in the science. Despite a very challenging situation all over the world for the universities, all over the world, we were very proud to say that the number of students who enrolled at Sorbonne University this year increased in comparison with previous years. And you have just these images that give you an image of what kind of students we have. So yes, we are an international university with students coming from all over the world. But as you see, most of our students are UAE nationals. And indeed, this is for us something very positive, because at the difference with other universities located in the UAE, we think ourselves as bringing the excellence to Abu Dhabi to help the UAE national and the youth of the UAE to grow and to reach the worldwide level. So we are much more embedded, we are really embedded in the Emirati society, and we are very proud of it, with a good network of alumni in the UAE that help also a developing program for our students. The campus, Sorbonne University campus, is of course the campus of Sorbonne University students, but it is very much a campus for the community and open to the community. Most of you know the premises with a wonderful auditorium. We have 3 amphitheaters. We have the largest French library in the Gulf region. We have a residence, but we have other facilities. For example, a wonderful sport hall with one of the main climbing wall in the indoor climbing wall in Abu Dhabi, which is open to the public. Well, now currently there are obviously some restrictions, but it's not only for the students, and we have external auditors attending all these facilities. So before the pandemic, there were a lot of events organized in our premises, and I hope that we'll be able to resume this wonderful event as soon as it is possible. I also want to take the opportunity of this very short presentation to thank the Friends of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi and the Companions of Enlightenment. And I will say that the help and the support of the Friends of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi Association was very specifically useful for us this year, because it gave us the opportunity to support some of our students who directly suffered from COVID-19 crisis. And thanks to the funding received from the Friends of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi, we were able to create another committee and to help to support some of our students. So I encourage, and so the funding are for helping students, they are also for funding research. Once again, this year, because of the situation, most of the conference and international seminar workshop on campus were on hold. But I really hope that it will be possible to resume all these events very soon. And I encourage all of you who are willing to support our students to become a friend of or a companion of enlightenment of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi. So about our programs, we have 13 undergraduate programs, mainly, but not only in French, and also a foundation year for those students who need either to get a better level in French to be able to follow the programs, or to get a better level in the science before entering the bachelor. We have also 12 postgraduate programs and also some programs of executive education. Regarding programs related to art, at this stage, we have a bachelor in history of art and archaeology and a master in history of art and museum studies. But we're very much working on creating new opportunities for the future and benefiting from the very close links we have with Sorbonne University Paris. So, for example, we really hope that in the future it will be possible to bring to Abu Dhabi the wonderful program that is developed in Paris regarding the Master of Physics concentration in non-destructive testing with application for the cultural heritage. This is a very, I mean, Philippe can talk about it. It's something we would love to bring here, but we also have other projects for the future, and we are working very hard in coordination with Paris to be able to open in the future new programs in archaeology, in performing arts. And that's our project for the future development for Sorbonne Abu Dhabi to come. And if these projects become reality, I hope that we'll have other opportunity to present the program for at the art circle. I'm sure that that will be interesting for the members of the art circle. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Vincent.
Thank you, Sylvia. How exciting. I mean, obviously, Sorbonne is one of the most prestigious French institution, obviously, but you sell it very well. So I'm sure you'll have a lot more contributors in the near future with a speech like that. So again, congratulations. I think we're here today for something super exciting, obviously. I think
J'entends rien, chérie, je suis... Attends.
Somebody is not on mute. Thank you very much. So we're here for something rather exciting. We have Caroline today. I think, Caroline, I'm not sure we can see you very well because obviously there's so many people on the screen. So if you can just wave your hand. Yes, this is Caroline Autret and Philippe Walter. Also Philippe with a lot of books behind him, obviously, as of course a professor should be. We have a very interesting subject in the sense that we're merging science and art. And I think we're all, for art lovers, there are many, many reasons where science, in fact, should intervene. And today we are going to have examples of fascinating aspects and applications of science in art. We will start with you, Caroline. You are an archaeologist by trade, obviously running the archaeology program for La Sorbonne. And I know I have seen your presentation, or very briefly your presentation, and I think you've got some really exciting stuff to show us today. So I will give you the floor, and thanking you again, both of you, for attending today. I will take over after probably 15-20 minutes, Caroline, if you don't mind, and introduce Philippe with his maybe a little bit more technology approach even to art, as you're doing, Caroline. So the floor is yours, Caroline. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Vincent. So let me, oops, that's not the first slide. Here we go. So good morning, everyone. So I will be speaking about art and science. I purposely reverse the title, or since I am an archaeologist, mostly about the practice of archaeology and in general heritage and sciences. So I will be speaking more about artifacts than artworks. Philippe Walter will be talking more about artworks. And I wanted to introduce you the relationship between science and heritage or archaeology, because as Sylvia Serrano told you, we are now working on new programs. And she mentioned one in archaeology. We are now working on a master in archaeology and cultural heritage that we hope that will be, for this master, we will be collaborating closely, hopefully, with the Department of Science. So you will see that the two are closely linked. So in the last 2 decades, scientific methods have been more and more applied to the study of humanities in general. And it has a significant impact on heritage. It simply revolutionized in the practice of archaeology. So during field work, and also during what we called in French post-fouille. So post-fouille is everything that we do after the field work. So when we're working on the artifact, the data collected at the site, etc., etc. So just so you know, archaeological fieldwork is actually just the tip of the iceberg. Most of the work that we do will be done after actually the fieldwork. It will be conducted afterwards. So why is science so important, and how is it relevant to archaeological practice and the study and preservation of heritage? So in order to explain you the scientific methods, some of them that we employed in the field of archaeology and cultural heritage, I will introduce you some of the steps of archaeological research. I don't have time to develop. So from the discovery of the sites and the artifact to the study of this cultural heritage. So I selected a few examples. But first of all, I should stress that archaeology is also a science. It is considered as a science, perhaps because scientific method have always been used in this field of research. And science has been used almost forever to conduct research in archaeology. Well, at least since archaeology is considered as a science, because you might know that it was not always the case, of course. So, for instance, aerial photography was used for surveying sites from the 1920. So that's very early after the beginning of photography. And another example that is more relevant to us today is that after World War II, we see an incredible progress of scientific methods that were developed actually initially for the purpose of geology that we will start to apply in archaeology. So here again, first for the purpose of finding sites, but both on land and underwater. So we are using a lot of geophysics and geochemical survey. So these methods were linked to geology simply because they are linked to the subsoil resources. They were initially developed to look for the presence of ore and for mining industry. So one of these methods that I will introduce today is the geophysics methods. So it is electric survey. I chose this one because it's the most ancient scientific method that is applied to archaeology. So how does it work is that we measure, very briefly, we measure electrical resistivity. So basically how the difficulty, how hard the current will go through a given volume of soil. So as I wrote you, it's the contrary of conductivity, which is how easy the current will go through the soil, which is another method that can be used, but with different devices. It's with belong to another category. So anyway. So these methods, as you can see, use, I put you an example of a device. There are many devices, but in general, the devices are quite easy to use, and they give very, let's say, quite easy, the anomalies are quite easy to interpret, as you can see here. So that's really the advantages of conducting electric survey. So just so you know, for instance, a soil that is made of stones, stones in random artifacts, or dry soil are very resistant. So that's what you can see here. While on the contrary, humid soil and the clay artifact or clay structures are, have a very low resistance, and they are very conductive for the current. It helps the current to go through. So you can see that this, provided this is an example of a theater, and then the team superposed the find they had during the excavation. So you can see that indeed what has a very high resistivity is where you can find the structure of the theater. So the high resistivity here in this case indicates the build structure, so where we have the stones preserved. So this one is quite easily, but as you can imagine, other methods are much more complicated. So to do it, because the devices will be much more complicated, they need calibration, etc. And also, as you can see, because the results would need to be interpreted by a specialist. So in this case, it is, of course, some scientists that will do the survey and not really the archaeologists. And we need to collaborate because we cannot interpret the results. I mean, you will see it doesn't, once you have the interpretation, it's not that difficult, but if you have only the first map, without a specialist, you cannot interpret what you have found. So the major interest of using this kind of method, so scientific methods, is that it is what Philip Walter will say, also will emphasize, I'm sure, that it is non-destructive. Why am I saying this? It's because it's the exact opposite of the process of archaeology, which is destructive. You archaeologists, we destroy the data as we are collecting them, basically. So we need, it's of the utmost importance to record all the data that we find, the artifact, but also data of the site, because as I told you, as we are digging, we are basically destroying the site and we cannot go back. So we need as much data to be able to work afterwards. So to record what we find, we use, of course, several methods. So we can use a GPS to have the exact, to record the exact location, and sometimes to measure, to do some measurements. Of course, drawings, we draw by hand and then we ink the drawings with the assistance of computers. We can use photography and a very specific technique linked to, photography, that is called photogrammetry. So nowadays, photogrammetry is commonly employed during archaeological field work, and it is exactly in the topic of today, when art meets science, because it consists of extracting 3D data from simple pictures. So you will obtain, as you can see here, a kind of a 3D scan from multiple shots. So this process is used to record, measure, and also interpret the sites or also the artifact, as you can see with the skeleton. So the principle, so photogrammetry is based on stereoscopy. So basically, like our eyes, you need two vision of what you are looking. So basically, it consists in superposing the images that are taken of something similar, taken with different angles. And with this process of stereoscopy, these different angles, so from something flat, you will be able to create relief. So the pictures can be taken from the ground or from above, so from a plane, or nowadays from a drone also. So it can be used, photogrammetry, for big surfaces, so a site, and even bigger surfaces. So just so you know, when you put a 3D view on Google Earth, the buildings that you can see, they rely on this process and actually relies on photogrammetry. But they can also be used, as you can see, it is employed for artifacts, and it is very precious. For instance, when digging, you can see here a skeleton. So this is a different stage of digging. So when you record like this, you are sure that you will not miss any information during the process of excavating. So once you have multiple pictures, so just so you know, this is from a site I'm working in Pompeii. So that's, you can see that's the drawing. I don't know if you're able to see that it's exactly the same site. So this structure can find, this structure can be found here, this one here, just that here we were a bit more advanced in the digging than what the drawing is showing. But to do this photogrammetry, we took more than 500 pictures. Okay, so once you have these multiple pictures, We use, of course, a software with algorithm, which will correlate and merge all these images together to provide in fine this view in volume, so this 3D view. So we can also use this technique of multiple pictures to get 3D images underwater, and it is then called photo mosaic. Don't ask me why it's a different name, but that's how it is. So photomosaic reflects, in my opinion, more what it is about, that we create an image based on a mosaic of pictures. But as you can see, it is the same. We obtain a 3D view and incredible views of deep sea finds. So here it is a cargo shipwreck from the 4th century BC found in Cyprus, the Mazotos shipwrecks. It lies by 55 meters underwater, and you can see that the cargo, the amphorae that were the cargo, can show here exactly the shape of the boat as it was before. So I will not take more time, so I just, before to let Philippe talk, because he will talk more about artworks, I just wanted to show you some other science methods, techniques that are applied to archaeology and material culture. And instead of, I decided that instead of telling you more about it, it would be more relevant, more meaningful to show you some very short extract of some videos that I will provide you. You can find them online, so I will provide you the link to them afterwards. So I'll explain to you quickly when they start. So the process here is basically, it's forensics, just so you know, kind of forensics methods that you will see here, that was developed by a French team to study cultural heritage and archaeological artifacts. So they will first, as you will see, scan the artifact. So here it is a fardeau, so it is a funerary bundle that was found in that is found in Peru. Then they map the scan they will do with the original fardeau. They will superpose the two images, the scan and the real one, with the real one that was processed with, here again, photogrammetry. And afterwards, using mixed reality glasses and mixed reality, so it's at the same time augmented and virtual reality, they will create an interactive hologram that is calculated every millisecond, just to give you an idea. So they are able with this to study the artifact live. So here you see they are at the hospital, they are scanning with an MRI the fardeau. So I'll show you a bit there, and then I'll move forward, but you can have the link to see the whole documentary after that. So let me move. Okay, not good. Alors, attends. Ah, c'est pas vrai ça. C'était pas prévu. Ouais. So here, once they put the glass, here is what they see. So you see the fardeau is here, but what he's seeing is shown in the screen. So I'm moving a bit forward. So that's everything that is inside. You will understand. Then I put just the end. So you see, so that's here you can see that's a fabric, and then they can play on the density of the object. So if they want to see the fabric, here you can see the playing on the density, they will see the bones. So you can see here the crane, and I will move a bit forward again. So a bit too forward. So here the crane, and if they want stuff that are even more dense, they will have only a stone and here the teeth. So I'll go to another one afterwards. So you see that's that comes from everything, I mean, from the scanning of the object. I have just a quick other one, 160. So that's a crane that was found. And you see, so they did the same. They did an MRI, and they then used photogrammetry and virtual reality. Maybe I could move a bit forward. So this is again what they see, though, as you understood, the object is not, of course, in front of them. They can still study it. So you see the same, the play on density. So if they want, they have the flesh or only the bones. And I'm leaving it because they can even see, you see, that's part of what is conserved, what is preserved of the brain inside the crane. So it gives really incredible results and incredible, of course, possibilities in terms of research and study what would be, if not completely impossible, because of course you will not break the crane to get inside. Or the fardo, you will not open the fardo to get inside. And at the end, just to finish on that, so so here the same, he has the virtual reality glasses. He's studying, he's an anthropologist, so he will studying the crane, so he's detecting diseases, etc., thanks to this technology. And then they can also use all this work to, of course, what we are seeing here, to recreate the person to whom the crane belongs. So this is a female person. And they found out actually that this, her face, except that she has a malformation on the top of the crane, but except from that, her face is still very similar to the Nakas people living in the Nakas area where the crane was found at the time.
If I may, Caroline, with videos like this, you are going to excite a lot of the young audience that we have today. This is going to bring a lot of vocations. This is quite striking, I must say. This is a new world. I mean, I just watched The Dig on Netflix, and we are so far away from that story.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, Caroline.
So it was just to show. So I'm done. So just a few words on these videos is that the advantage, of course, as you might understand, of the process is that though the person might not be physically here, they can still run their study. And this would enable, of course, a team of specialists to analyze simultaneously the same artifact while being in different places. And yeah, of course, the video where to see, because a lot of young people now want to do forensics, and you can do forensics not only to solve murder, but beyond that for scientific purposes. And I'm finishing. I will give you the floor in 2 seconds, Vincent. This presentation of when art meets science. Nowadays, that's what happened, with a picture to show you that in antiquity, art was science. So thank you very much for your attention.
Merci, Caroline. Thank you so much for this. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for this very exciting and inspiring video, actually, with your technology, with obviously the job that you are doing with obviously worldwide colleagues. So extremely exciting. I know that Philippe has even more to show us with extremely advanced technologies that are on the way to be implemented, or maybe already implemented, or at least under development, particularly applied to artwork, let's say. So Philippe, I'll leave you to it, and I'm sure I already see quite a lot of questions coming in. So I'll summarize at the very end. The floor is yours, Philippe.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. So I would like to just before starting, I would like to show you different examples of the application of scientific analysis to the study of artworks. And my research is mainly dedicated to paintings. So I will show you personal examples on different kinds of paintings. So to start, I just would like to emphasize the fact that this use of scientific methods to study works of art is not new. So some of them are very well known today and are playing a major role actually in the domain of authentication of works of art. So here it is a scientific image of the Mona Lisa under UV. It is a very simple method with a UV lamp. You can buy one for $20 and you can observe immediately at the surface of the painting that you have dark areas. And these dark areas are corresponding to restoration on the Mona Lisa painting. So immediately with such kind of things, you have a first insight about the state of preservation. And we can continue, and since the discovery of X-rays at the end of the 19th century, people tried to carry out some X-ray radiography of the painting. And again, on Mona Lisa, you can see the radiography, and you can observe. And at the end, I will discuss more this point. You can see that, for example, the face of Mona Lisa is not appearing very well under X-rays because Leonardo da Vinci used very thin layers of paint matters to realize the portraits. So it is ancient techniques that are used in many places, and actually, but since the last, I would say 20 years, people have also developed other kind of technologies, what we are describing actually as non-destructive testing techniques, that mean a wide group of scientific methods, physical and chemical methods that can be used in all the domain of our life, in science, in industry, in forensic, to evaluate the properties, the nature of the properties of a simple material or of very complex materials. So in my personal research, I started to develop such kind of techniques in 1997 when the NASA sent a rover on Mars to make analysis of the rocks on the Mars planet. I just would like to emphasize that in just 2 weeks, we'll have a new rover on Mars, and probably you will have a lot of information about the new technologies that are being developed also to study the rocks and possible traces of life on the planet Mars. But from these technologies for space, industry has developed commercial devices, for example, to analyze ceramics with such kind of gun with X-rays. It is called X-ray fluorescence. And in only few seconds or few minutes, you can have a good identification of the nature of the materials that were used. And you can find some trace elements, for example, that can give insights on the trade of materials during the Greek period, considering this vase, this small pot. But also another domain, and it is my domain, is to develop, to build new prototypes. And because of the link with NASA, I would like to show you a first example of a prototype that I developed with colleagues from NASA. It is again with X-rays to analyze directly a painting, and not only to have the chemical composition of one area of the painting by doing what we call single spot analysis. That means we are choosing the place where we want to do the analysis. With the colleagues, we develop a camera with X-rays. And with this camera, it is possible to have the chemical composition on each point of this painting from Gustave Caillebotte. So our project was developed just before NASA sent the new rover to Mars. It was not selected for the next mission, but we hope that it will be selected for missions on in the close future. So in this case, on Caillebotte, so Gustave Caillebotte, an impressionist painter, it is a beautiful painting showing his family in his houses, North Paris. And we did the chemical map on the face of his mother, as you can see there. We need only few hours to do this chemical map. And if I look just on one tile here on the flowers with green and red color, we obtain what we call chemical map. So it doesn't matter, you have the chemical element there. What is extremely important is that with this technique, we are able to identify each pigment, to understand the nature of the different mixtures Caillebotte used to produce the colors. And also on such kind of diagrams there, we were able to demonstrate that we have some information about the impurities that are in the pigments used by Gustave Caillebotte. So we can say, for example, with this painting, that we know he used a blue pigment made with cobalt. Cobalt is a metal that was used to produce blue pigment since the 19th century. And in this blue pigment, we can know exactly the quantity of impurity in iron and nickel, so two other elements. So it is just a fact. It is just interesting as a fact. But it is also interesting because it is a description, a very accurate description about the nature of the pigments used by Caillebotte from his dealer of colors. So it can be useful in the future, for example, for the authentication of a painting of Caillebotte. If it is from the same period, we must have the same impurities. So you can see with this technique, we have not a deep information about the practices, the artistic practices for the creation of the works of art, but we have also information about impurities, and then it can be useful for authentication. For the practices of the artist, you can see just the mouth of his mother, you can see the complexity of the colors, and you can see the list of pigments we have recognized. And for example, you have here two vermilion colors. Red vermilion is very well known, but Caillebotte used also an orange vermilion, which was a pigment developed at this period for the artist. And on the mouth, we have both red and orange vermilion colors. So that means with the same composition. But because the preparation of the pigment were not the same, the pigments have not the same colors. So it is interesting to see that the list is relatively short, but with some aspects that can be characteristic of the practices of this painter. So we develop in the lab many techniques, and we are working worldwide. You can see different examples. So just before, Caroline discussed about Peru. So it is measurements that we carried out on the red colors on the Temple of the Sun in Pachacamac, south of Lima, but we are working also on rock art paintings here in the Chauvet Cave in France with the oldest paintings. You can see here a mammoth with the body of the mammoth there, Caillebotte, Bruegel, and many other cases. My first example is of application is in Egypt, because we have a very important program in Egypt in close cooperation with the Ministry of Antiquity of Egypt, so in Luxor, and we are working with our mobile instruments with non-destructive testings. That means with techniques that are allowing chemical analysis and studies of the paintings without any damage for them. And we are working in the desert to go to the tombs. So you have a lot of tombs in Luxor. This is a 3D model of one of those we have analyzed, because we are also trying to record at a very high resolution 3D model of these tombs. So it is like if you are in the rock of the mountain and you can see the different parts of this tomb, and we are working usually 3 in the same place, because you can see it is very small monuments. The size is something like 10 meters long, and we are doing simultaneously 3D modeling, like Caroline explained before, microscopy, optical microscopy with UV, with infrared, with normal light also, to understand the pigments, the nature of the grains, and also chemical imaging with different techniques. So this picture is just a 360-degree image of our activities in the tomb. So usually we are, it is necessary to have 3 days to record a lot of data in one tomb. And actually in our project, which is stopped this year due to the COVID-19 disease, but we hope to continue next year, we have analyzed, studied, recorded about 20 different tombs from the period of the 16th and the 19th and 20th dynasty in Egypt. That means from the period of Tutankhamun, Ramses II, Ramses III, and so on. This is one example of application. This is one of the painting in the tomb I have shown, and it is a representation of the King Ramses II. So you can see the face. It is a beautiful painting from ancient Egypt. But when we are looking in detail, thanks to our chemical studies, we can do what we call a chemical map. So that means that we scan like on KaiBot, but here it is on a larger surface. So we scan our instrument to record the chemical distribution of the elements that are characteristic to the pigment. So here I can display copper, arsenic, and iron. Copper is characteristic of blue, arsenic is characteristic of yellow or orange, and iron is characteristic of red. So you can see in false color, so in blue, you have copper, arsenic in green, and iron in red. And you can see different distribution that are not exactly similar to what you can see with our eyes. And in particular, you can see here that the shape that we have underlined with a green line of the scepter is not exactly the shape that you can see here on the picture. So we can make different drawings with these kind of things, with iron and also copper and arsenic, and we can compare the chemical analysis we have obtained, the image through the chemical analysis we obtain with reference database of images, for example, of the crown of the pharaoh, and we can see that we have many, many differences. And that means that we can observe that the painter started to realize the painting, started to realize the painting with the crown, which was larger and scratched apart. But when the crown was larger, he put a necklace which has not the same shape as today. So that means the necklace was painted over by a new necklace with another name, another technology. So one is Wedek and the other is Shebiu. And when he did that, he obtained some difficulties because you have some superimposition between the scepter and the face. So he has also to modify the face. So that means at the end of this story, that we observe two steps of realization of this painting, meaning that the artist changed his ideas. And at the beginning, produce one image and then totally change this image to make another image with another shape of crown, with another necklace, and with another place for the scepter. So all the attributes of the pharaoh. So it is something amazing and very important for us because it is, to our knowledge, the first case when we can see such kind of repaint, such kind of modification of the composition. And this kind of modification of the composition are very well known for the modern painting since the Renaissance period, when you have painters working on the paintings and remodeling the paintings, sometimes several times. So we try to understand that, and this is why actually we are increasing the number of tombs that we are analyzing to be able to understand if this phenomenon is only on this place or if it was something used frequently by the ancient Egyptian artists. So another kind of application is also to work with such kind of instruments. It was 1 week ago in Normandy, in Bayeux, in France. We worked on the Bayeux tapestry. The Bayeux tapestry is a very large cloth, embroidered cloth depicting the Norman conquest of England. So it is dated from the beginning of the 12th century. And with another kind of technique, which is called hyperspectral imaging, we were able to record the 70 meters of this tapestry with a very high resolution. And that means just in 2 weeks, we were able to record 1 billion of spectra. And that means that we have today the recording of the chemical nature of the dyes on each thread of the tapestry. So at the end, it's just the beginning of our process. I show you just the very recent research. We were able to map the different colors, and it is important for different point of view. The first point of view, it is important for conservation, to know how is preserved our cultural heritage objects, artifacts, because we have here a recording which is very precise and that can be reproduced in the future. So that means in 100 years, for example, people can reproduce and compare the results with our results to see if we have a fading of the colors. That means that the colors were degraded or not. But also we're able to map all the colors. And for example, here on the horse, you can see that we have a pink color in the middle of the red, it was because one part of this part of the tapestry was restored during the 19th century with other dyes. So actually, we try also to search for an identification of the original components and identification of the restorations of the tapestry through times. So just to finish, because time is running, again on Leonardo da Vinci. So it is not new, it is studies that we carried out 15 years ago, 15 to 10 years ago on the Mona Lisa. So to show you that these techniques are new, but relatively new. So 15 years ago, we were able to move the Mona Lisa from the showcase to the exhibition room and to do analysis again with X-rays. And we demonstrate a lot of things thanks to this analysis, but also we open the way to new possibilities with these non-destructive techniques. That means possibilities not only to identify the pigments, the impurities on the pigments, but also to have a deep insight about the superimposition of layers by the artist. When we are looking to paintings from the Renaissance period, for example, for Leonardo, Raphael, and others, it is very important to consider that the work of the painter was to superimpose different layers with different thicknesses, different composition. And thanks to that, we are able to make what we call a virtual cross-section. So this diagram is similar to a cut of the Mona Lisa along this line. And you can see the thicknesses of the different layers, the varnish and the dark glaze, which is used for the shadows, and also the pink and the priming layer underneath. So that means that on the face of Mona Lisa, the whole thickness of the pigments is less than 100 micrometers. So that means that the layers are very thin, and we were able also to identify the composition. But thanks to that, we were also able to demonstrate that Leonardo da Vinci was able to spread layers as thin as 1 or 2 micrometers thick. So that means incredibly thick layer. And one part of the fascination to this painting is due to the fact that we can observe no brush strokes, no trace of the realization by the artist, but it is mainly due to the fact that it was able to superimpose very thin layers that are not visible by naked eyes. So it is also interesting because you can imagine the complexity of such kind of technique. So first to spread a white layer, then a pink layer, and then a lot of very thin layer of dark matter. And it must take time. And we know that it was a very long process for Leonardo, because during the 16th century, you have another artist, also writers, who wrote about the Mona Lisa, that Leonardo worked on it for 4 years. And it was probably due to this very complex technique with a superimposition of a lot of layers. And Vasari said also he left it unfinished. So I don't know why he left it unfinished, but it is another topic of discussion for the art historian. So just to finish, not this one, and to summary what we can do today with this kind of non-destructive technique, it is the idea that we can work on the history of techniques, the history of pigments, to know the list of pigments used by an artist at a specific period. We can find relevant impurities to follow the trade of pigments and exchange of materials, sometimes with very long distances. We can also understand the artist's gesture, so how he spreads materials, paint matter, and what the thickness of the layer was. So with these 3 aspects, we can describe exactly what happened in the workshop of the artist, the whole process of the creation of the painting. But we have also a lot of information about the degradation of the color through times. So it is also very important for conservation and restoration purposes. So here you have 2 examples of 2 versions of the Sunflowers by Van Gogh, and you can see that the yellow color was strongly modified. It was strongly modified due to the alteration with light. And all these aspects today are also contributing, I think, a lot, not enough today, but in the future, I hope more for the attribution, authentication, and traceability of the works of art. And it is something important because it was not used generally 10 years ago. It was used only in the main museums in the world. But today we observe, for example, in auction, that some of the main companies of auction have created recently laboratory of non-destructive testing and chemical analysis to try to use these techniques to contribute to the attribution or authentication of the works of art. So I have finished. So as usual, I need to put all the sponsors of such kind of application. And I'd like to show this painting from Martin van Heemschreck, so from the 16th century, showing Saint-Luc painting the Virgin in his own workshop. And you can see the beautiful palette he has in his hands, and with a lot of brushes. And you can see the complexity of the different materials. And Daniel Arras, a great French art historian, wrote a very nice text about this palette, because maybe you can see on the picture there that we have a small drop of a liquid which is translucent and which seems to be very important for the artist at the center of his palette, and probably because it was modified the properties of the different colors around, and it was necessary before painting the face of the Virgin. So thank you very much for your attention.
Caroline, thank you so much. I think you have answered a lot of the questions actually that were raised, but there's one thing that actually strikes me is how in fact those technologies are accessible to a great number of people. In fact, I mean, you are using instruments that are almost democratic, I would say. Do you feel that thanks to these technologies that are very accessible now more and more, that you will have a lot more archaeologists and art experts coming into the field? Do you feel that there is a connection to more students and the younger generation to your field, which, let's face it, probably 20, 30 years ago was maybe a bit of an obscure world? Do you feel the appeal of your job to the younger generation, since you are, of course, in connections with students in your work? And that's a question for both Caroline and yourself, Philippe.
Okay, if I'm starting, I think there is a growing interest of this technique. So in art history, if we want to convince everybody, we need to start with the students and with a professor of art history. So it is something interesting to see that actually the interest of the art historians to use this kind of techniques for their own research is growing. And I have today, this afternoon, a meeting to share a PhD student with an art historian about the Renaissance period. So actually it is something that it is possible. In the past, all these techniques were considered more dedicated to conservation purposes, to help the restorer more than the art historian or for the authentication of the work of art. But actually there is a growing interest, and we need to teach that, we need to explain that. These instruments are not very costly, so that means it is possible to develop private companies, and not only in universities, laboratories, but also private companies, to help the people that want to know more about their works of art.
And Caroline, as far as archaeology, do you see more appeal into archaeology thanks to technology in a way? Kind of, instead of being interested in archaeology, history, and so on, people who are very techno-driven now want to use it for archaeology, and in a way becoming little Sherlock Holmes of and using archaeology as a field of interest through technology?
Yes, actually, there are people that they can start the same that the students in the first step that could be interested in archaeology, but we've seen some students who are like passionate, we call them nerds, let's say, passionate about IT or about sciences, and that eventually they move to this to be able to study archaeology through sciences or through computer science. I mean, yes, that's something that can drive the student, I mean, motivate them. And we need that because we need to evolve with our time. And as you've seen that sciences and in general are very helpful when it comes to the study of material culture in general, whether it's paintings or archaeological artifacts. So I think it is important to let the student know that there is this possibility also for them, yes.
And do you see, this is another question we had, it's kind of the reverse question is, do you feel that there is an influence from art into science, from artists into scientists? Do you feel that it's a back and forth relationship between the two of you? I would say, does École des Beaux-Arts influence La Sorbonne scientists in a way and art historians? Do you see that connection between the different arrondissements of Paris?
I would love to be during the 19th century. And then I can say immediately, yes, a lot. During the 19th century, you have people in the École des Beaux-Arts de Paris that were chemists, teaching science for artists. For example, Louis Pasteur was teacher of chemistry and physics for the new artists at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. So it was something totally evident. It was normal for these people. In my lab, I'd like to say also that we are working on paintings and painter before the beginning of the 20th century. The problem for the 20th century is that for the artists, they obtain many new materials, a lot of new materials with new effects. And then they started to do a lot of things that has no sense for chemists or for physicists. So they try to create, sometimes with a wrong way, and then we have a destruction of the work of art, sometimes in a good way, and everybody is happy. But I think it is something totally, the situation is totally different. But today, again, there is a growing interest about that. So for example, you remember maybe the work that Anish Kapoor started to work on a new pigment, yes, with the total black color. And it was a collaboration with an industry of nanotechnology. So that means that artists and industry of chemistry, physics, nanotechnology are starting to work again together. During the 60s, Yves Klein also worked with his color seller to produce the international Klein Blue. It was not very complex at that time. It was not a development of technology, but a right choice of a binder with the right preparation of the pigment. So that means that sometimes you have such kind of things, but actually chemistry, physics, properties of painting are not taught in detail as it was during the 19th century for the artist, for the new artist.
I am thinking of a fantastic exhibition that we had, I think, in Pompidou, it was maybe Musée d'Art Moderne de la Ville de Paris, on Kupka, who was talking, of course, of the light spectrometry. And it was quite fascinating, his interpretation, like Delaunay, of course. So we have many examples in the art history of influence. And I do share what you're saying. Probably a last question, I guess.
It is more on the series, yes, in science, more than a close link between scientists and artists. Yes. But of course, artists like to follow the new theories.
Yes. Last question, perhaps for you, Caroline. Do you feel that there are, thanks to science, do you feel that we are now speeding up the discovery, the world discovery of what is underground? Your work is, a lot of it normally requires excavation, digging. Do you feel that we will be learning a lot more thanks to science without actually digging and excavating? And will it speed up our understanding of history, of human history in a way?
Well, I am not sure it will be possible to do archaeological study and research based only on science. I mean, for now at least, because you can, it is science really help in archaeology and is really kind of speeding the process, as you said, especially when we have the artifact. I mean, now we can have much more detailed results, because as you can see with the Fado, for instance, we can see inside. So it provides completely new perspective about what is archaeology and what is studying some artifacts. When it comes to site, I'm not sure, because you can indeed study site, you can have, it's really helpful to find sites. So if you have an inch and you can actually detect, maybe have a better understanding of what would be the site, but excavating would still be necessary. Though sometimes, depending on depends what you want to do, what you want to achieve, what are your research questions. Sometimes it's true that now they're using these techniques and then they just do what we call in French sondage, so very short excavation, very small excavation to demonstrate that they're right without really opening everything. That can happen. It depends basically of the time, of the money, of a lot of things, but you still need to excavate, I think.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Caroline and Philippe. I think I can tell you that the comments show the enormous excitement. I think you've blown away our audience, and I personally want to thank you for being so, I would say, easy to understand. It's a complex subject, obviously, but in less than 1 hour, you have managed to probably generate vocations to our young generation. But even myself, I'm now thinking of my retirement plan. Maybe I should be digging from now on. So maybe this is what I should be thinking about, the next life. Barbara, the floor is yours to conclude, probably. Thank you so much, Philippe and Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you. What an amazing subject. Caroline and Philippe, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us. It's unbelievable to see what we are able to discover of our past. Thanks to you, we better understand that there is definitely art in sciences and sciences in art. Thank you, Sylvia, for presenting the Sorbonne Abu Dhabi. I will be very happy to share the program with our members. And also, Caroline, if you can send us the video, that was so interesting. I'm sure a lot of our members would like to see that video too. On behalf of the Art Circle board, I would like to thank all of you for coming today. Do not hesitate to follow our webpage and Instagram, theartcircle.ae, where you will find the replays of our webinars and general information about the Art Circle. Stay safe, stay tuned, and see you soon. Thank you, everyone.